We are skipping 9.2, 9.3, and 9.4. So this is 9.5. It says use the ALEKS calculator to evaluate each expression. So it wants to know what is the cosine of 48. Now you can use the ALEKS calculator or you can use your calculator, but just make sure that your calculator is in degree format. There's another format called radian. So if you have a graphing calculator, if you push mode, the third or the fourth one down will either say radian or degree. If you're using one of the blue TI-30s, you'll see a little, nope. Oh boy. I'm failing at this. There we go. So you'll see either a little DEG on the screen or an RAD. Make sure your calculator is in DEG. And then you just plug them in. So the cosine of 48 is 0.67. So this is equal to 0.67. What does that mean? Well, let's think of it as a percentage. So let's think of it as 67%. And in a right triangle, what does cosine represent? Which two sides does cosine do? SOHCAHTOA, cosine is adjacent and hypotenuse. So if this is the hypotenuse, opposite would be here and adjacent would be here. So if this angle is 48 degrees, then we know that A divided by H is 67%. So that is telling us whenever our angle is 48 degrees, the adjacent side will be 67% as long as the hypotenuse. So if the angle is 48 degrees, then this side is 67% as long as the hypotenuse. Now, that's true for little triangles. That's true for big triangles. As long as this angle is 48 degrees, then the ratio is 67%. Okay, what was your question? 9.5. You might have to, well, try refreshing. Okay. Do you have 9.1 done? All right. I'll have to see what's going on with yours. So the rest are easy. Sine of 84, type it in. The tangent of 25, type that in. Okay, the next one. So you need to remember SOHCAHTOA. What two sides does tangent use? Tangent uses opposite and adjacent. So if I choose angle B, then 24 would be opposite and 7 would be adjacent. So the tangent of B is 24 over 7. Does that make sense? Everybody get that? No? Okay, the sine of B. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So opposite over hypotenuse. So it'd be 24 over 25. Okay. What if I asked for the cosine of A? So this is my angle, and cosine is A over H. then we would do, so the cosine would be A divided by H, 24 over 25. Is this all kind of new to you? Yeah? Let me look at something. All right, so I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but in a right triangle, the long side is always H. If I choose this to be my angle, then the side that touches it is called adjacent. That word just means next to. The leg that does not touch A is called opposite. Well, what if I switch from A to B? How is that going to change how I label the triangle? So this becomes opposite and this becomes adjacent, and the H stays right where it is. So we need to come up with a way to match angles with sides. So if I have a right triangle, and let's say I stretch it this way, as this angle gets smaller, this side gets larger, and this side gets larger. So as we push and pull a right triangle, there's a relationship between the sides of the angles and the lengths of the sides. And those relationships are explored in trigonometry. So our trig functions are the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. And I should have explained this before, but anyway, I thought you guys did some of this last year, but I guess not, which is fine. So we abbreviate these, sine, cosine, and tangent. We abbreviate them as SIN, COS, and TAN. Don't say sin, cos, tan. Make sure you say sine, cosine, and tangent, or people, including me, will make fun of you. So the sign of that symbol right there is a Greek letter called theta. It's I believe that's lowercase theta. So anytime you see that 0 with the wearing a belt, that just means angle. So the sine of theta is found by taking the opposite side and dividing by the hypotenuse. The cosine of theta is found by taking the adjacent side and dividing by the hypotenuse. And the tangent of theta is found by taking the opposite side and dividing it by the adjacent. Okay? And we remember that using the mnemonic SOHCAHTOA. How do you remember the spelling of SOHCAHTOA? It's easy. You ready? You'll never forget this. Some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. Yeah, now you'll never forget it. And all it's telling us is sine is O divided by H, cosine is A divided by H, and tangent is O divided by A. Okay. So let's do another one of these. So this problem will tell us which angle to choose. So we are choosing L. Now you can either choose L or you can choose M, but we do not choose N. N is the right angle. What's wrong with choosing N? Well, let's say I do choose N. What would the name of this side be? And hypotenuse. So this becomes H and O. What would the name of this side be? Adjacent. And what would the name of this side be? Adjacent. And that fouls everything up. So we have two adjacents, and our H and our O are the same size. So we do not choose the right angle when we're dealing with right triangle trig. If I choose L, I know that this is H. 9 would describe which length? opposite, and 40 would describe adjacent. Okay? So cosine is simply the ratio of A divided by H. So 40 over 41. The cosine of L is 40 over 41. Does that make more sense now? Now that I actually taught you how to do it? What would the tangent of L be? So tangent is O divided by A. So it'd be 9 over 40. And the sine of L would be opposite over hypotenuse, which would be 9 over 41. Does that make sense? What if I asked for the tangent of M? If I move my angle from L to M, how does that change the labeling of the triangle? The O and the A switch places. So we get A here and O here. And the tangent of M would be 40 over 9. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Here we have an angle and one side, and we want to find the other side. Are you stuck? Do you need help? Oh. So here, I am told that this angle is 66 degrees, and I know that H is 6. I need to find this length. What is the name of this length with relationship to that angle? Adjacent. So I write my SOHCAHTOA. Which ratio uses A and H? Would be cosine. So I write the cosine of 66 is x over 6. Does everybody understand that? The cosine of 66 is x over 6. So how do I solve for x? Just multiply by 6, right? And I get 6 cosine of 66. In my calculator, I just do 6 cosine of 66, and I get 2.44. Okay, now let's, oh man, that's not what I wanted to do. All right. All right, let's do another one. I'm going to change this problem. So we have a triangle with a 30-degree angle. X would be which side length? Opposite. And 12, which would be which side length? Adjacent. Which trig ratio uses opposite and adjacent? Tangent. So the tangent of 30 is x over 12. How do I get the x by itself? multiply by 12. So x is simply 12 tangent of 30. So if I type that into my calculator, 12 tangent of 30, then I get 6.928. Okay. Let me change the triangle a little bit. Let's say that the hypotenuse is 50. What trig ratio do I need to choose if I have adjacent and hypotenuse? Landon, I'm worried about you. You're not paying attention to this one. We need to choose cosine. So the cosine of 34 is x over 50. How do I get x by itself? Times by 50. In my calculator, I do 50 cosine of 34, and I get 41.45. Now, every single one of these that I have done so far ended up looking something like this: x divided by some number. So if I had the sine of 10 equaled x over 5, how do you solve that? Multiply by 5. Okay? But what if it looks like this? What if the x is in the denominator? How would you solve? Well, the long way to solve is times this by x and times this by x, and then divide by sine, and then divide by sine. But the easy way to do it is, if we have the sine of 10 equals 5 over x, if x is on bottom, just switch places with the sine and the x. We end up with x equals 5 over the sine of 10. So every time you solve one of these problems, it will either be a multiply problem or it will be a switch problem. So let's solve the one that's on the board right now. Which trig ratio do I choose? Okay, I'll show you. This is the same kind, so this will tell you. Which two sides do I have? Adjacent and opposite. Which one uses adjacent and opposite? Tangent. So the tangent of 34 is 12 over x. Is this a multiply or a switch problem? Switch. So we switch places with those, and we get x equals 12 over the tangent of 34. So 12 divided by the tangent of 34. That's what it looked like in your calculator. 17.79. Okay. What if I had this? Which trig ratio would I choose? Well, this is opposite, and this is adjacent. No, it's not. That's the hypotenuse. Which trig ratio uses O and H? Sine. So the sine of 34 is 12 over x. Is this a multiply or a switch? So you switch places with those, and we get x equals 12 over the sine of 34. So 12 divided by sine of 34. All right, you only need to do the first three in 9.5.